Hello everyone, I am Aubrey from Kennay Farms Distilling in Rochelle, and we're going to talk today about everything it took to take an idea to actually going through the steps and turning it into a viable business plan and opening your own business. So Kennay Farms Distilling opened March 14th, 2019 in downtown Rochelle after several years of intensive renovations to the old Hub Theater. And during these renovations, obvious planning and research was taking place in order to be ready to open our doors. So a general overview of what we do at Kennay Farms is we take corn from our farm in Ashton and we turn it into craft spirits. So we have vodka, gin, and rye whiskey so far. And we also have a little brewery on the production floor where we make craft beer, and we keep anywhere from 5 to 8 craft beers on tap at any given time. So at this time, we'll cut away to a quick video. It'll be a virtual tour, just so you kind of can visualize the business and what I'm talking about when we go forward here. Hope you enjoyed that virtual tour. That was about 10,000 square feet that took 2.5 years to renovate. So if you picture an old theater, the production floor was where the seating was and the screens, and then upstairs in the mezzanine, they had a third screen and more seating up there. So it took 2.5 years of a lot of professional, very awesome team of people to fully renovate that and make it into the space that it is now. So we now have the mezzanine area as the tasting room, and as you could see from the video, it kind of overlooks the production floor, so it makes for a very kind of cool experience. While you're sipping on the cocktail, you can look out onto the floor and see everything that takes place. And if the guys are working late, you can actually see them, making the product and having the still run, and it's just a cool experience to be there. So that kind of gives you a visual of our business. So the idea that it came really derived from the farm. So we had to diversify the farming in order to make sure anyone that wanted to return to the farm could. So my brother and myself and my cousin Adam all decided that we were going to come home and join the family farm, and mom and dad were very pleased with that, but we also all knew that in order to make it sustainable, that we could all make careers out of this and provide for our respective families, that we needed to diversify the farm a little bit. Farming is very cyclical, so you can go through these cycles of great profitability and then cycles where it's pretty lean. And in order to minimize that risk, having off-farm income or other business ventures that can provide income definitely helps in those lean years to get you to that next profitable cycle. So in order to diversify, we looked at a bunch of different opportunities. We had a list of about 25, and it took us a year to just go right down the list and see which ones were gonna be viable and which ones we needed to check off and move on. So we looked at everything from aqua farming to a Culver's franchise to a little bakery, and finally decided on a distillery. And that decision came after many, many long conversations and research, but ultimately we looked at the team of people we already had and decided it was the best fit for us. We already knew how to farm and we could grow our own corn, and that would be our corn source for the distillery. And it would add value to the corn. Instead of taking it to the elevator for $3 to $5 a bushel, we could turn it into a spirit that sells by the bottle, by the glass, by the ounce. So we had the farming background. Then we looked at our personnel, and my brother could do the day-to-day farming and harvesting, grinding, milling. My cousin Adam is a chemistry and biology major, so he had that background, and he's very skilled at the science that's involved with making a great spirit. And then I was more the agricultural economics side of things. That's what I went to school for. So that's why I'm more in charge of the marketing, logistics, kind of general oversee of all the financial aspect of things. Then obviously Mom and Dad look at everything as a whole and overview both businesses and just make sure that it's viable and everyone's doing what they need to be doing, and it all works for us. So ultimately, that was the goal, to just add another business to make sure that when farming goes through its cyclical years, that we always had another viable business that was sustainable and offering an additional source of income to the farm. And that's one other thing I'll mention, that Mom and Dad farmed their entire married life of 38 years, but they both always had off-farm jobs. So my mom was a court reporter and my dad was a seed sales. And that always offered that extra income that they needed. But obviously they're both now in their 60s, and those other income producing jobs they have both since retired from. So this was the next step to make sure the next generation, so my brother, me, and my cousin had the additional income that we needed to keep the farm moving forward. So that now you have a general idea of our business and what we do, I thought I'd get a little bit more specific on the actual spirits we produce. So this is our vodka. This was our first product that we made, and it uses corn from our farm. So the corn gets planted, harvested, milled at the farm, and then transported to the distillery to be distilled out into vodka. And it's gone over really well so far. People really like it because it's got just a really smooth finish and just a hint of sweetness from the corn. So we're really pleased with this one being the first product off the still, and that's what we had available when we first opened back in March of 2019. Then we went on to our gin. That one was a hit as well. It's a little bit different than a lot of gins on the market because it's not super juniper forward. Sometimes that piney juniper taste can be a bit overpowering, and your hardcore gin drinkers, that's what they want. But we were searching for a recipe that kind of would appeal to a wider audience, people that want to try gin but don't like that super forward juniper pine taste. So we have 5 other botanicals within the mix, and then juniper is obviously in there because legally to be called gin it has juniper in it. But that was kind of the recipe we were looking for. Since gin's such a niche market, we wanted to kind of differentiate ours a little bit with more botanicals, less juniper. So that was our second spirit. And just recently, right in time for Father's Day, we released our rye whiskey. So this is made from wheat, barley, and corn from the farm. And so it's got the softness of wheat and the barley, but that pop of spice from the rye. So this has been pretty popular. It's only been out for sale at our distillery for about a month now. But the first 100 bottles we sign and number the first 100 of all our spirits, and those sold out in about 24 hours. and people have been coming back in droves for the rye. So that's been a good one for us as well. So these are our 3 spirits we currently have.
Right now, just take a look at the holes in the tray, and I'll talk about the process in just a second. All right, guys, so feed comes in 2/3 of the way up. You guys have already seen the trays in this vessel. Every sight glass you see on this tray, all the way up, has those trays in it. Every single sight glass in this vessel has those trays. The top few trays are never going to see mash. If they see mash, I've done a very bad job at distilling, all right? But the mash comes in about 2/3 of the way up. It runs over those holes, and the mash the beer begins to rain down inside this vessel. So if you can imagine, it's raining down. At the same time, I'm injecting live steam to the back of this vessel. So the steam's coming in, the steam rises up. That beer has some alcohol in it. So the alcohol vapors, or the alcohol and the steam, they're mixing, turn into vapors, and the vapors are going up while what's falling down is nothing but spent grain and water. So spent grain and water go down here. It's called your beer bottoms. I pump this liquid into the back where I have the world's smallest centrifuge. We spin out the water, and we take that spent grain back home to the cattle. Everyone asks me, are the cattle drunk? No, they are not. If the cattle were drunk, that means I'm letting too much alcohol go through. It means I'm running the system too cold, and I wouldn't be a distiller for very long, all right? So, the cattle are not drunk. They're happy cows, but not drunk cows. But that's the beer bottoms. The good part is, or the more exciting part is, out the top of this vessel, remember, you went from 5 to 9% alcohol. Out the top, you get anywhere from 100 to 110 proof alcohol. That's 50 to 55% alcohol. That's the power of distillation in this tall column.
So as you could tell from Adam's clip there, a lot goes into making a spirit, and those stills are 40 feet high, and Adam really knows how to operate them at optimal efficiency and to make sure each spirit comes out clean and smooth and people want to drink it and come back for it. So if you notice in his video, he mentioned 20 plates in that vodka still, and that's an important number. So remember that number, 20. Might come in handy. Don't share it with anyone. And your professor might ask you for that number again. So 20 plates, just really make sure that as that vodka goes through each plate, it's getting smoother and smoother. And what we can do with one run up and down that vodka still, it would take other distillers several days and several runs to do what we do, because we have that continuous column still. So that's very important. That 20 plate number is definitely important to us. So now we'll talk a little bit about how our specific organization is structured. So working with family all day, every day, it definitely has its benefits and its challenges, but we've been doing it for so long that we certainly think the rewards outweigh any bad days. So everyone's got their own responsibilities, but we obviously all have to keep in pretty close communication with each other to make sure that we have one coherent goal in mind. So on the production side, on the farm, we have to make sure we're keeping enough corn set aside for distillery use rather than commercial use. So the guys at the farm have to be in communication with the guys in production at the distillery to make sure the corn is harvested and kept in their separate bins for distillery use and then ground as needed. You don't want to get too far ahead of the distillery, because then you've got corn sitting that is ground and doesn't have a home for yet, and then you obviously don't want to fall behind and have the production halted at the distillery because you don't have corn ready for them. And then the production guys at the distillery, we've got 2 full-time guys and another guy that comes in as needed and nights and weekends and that sort of thing. And they all have to be in constant communication what the recipes are, the mash bills, make sure everyone's on the same page, and then obviously on the marketing side, we have to keep enough product set aside for the tasting room, then again for the warehouse to be used in distribution channels. So that's constant communication between the marketing side and the production guys in the distillery. So as you can see, we've got three distinct roles that we're all kind of in charge of, but you also have to be very good at communicating and keep those open lines to make sure everyone's working towards the same goals. So now would be a good time to cut away to one more quick video. It just kind of shows the whole circle from the farm to the distillery and then back to the farm. So hopefully that video gave you a little clearer understanding how closely intertwined our two businesses really are. It all starts at the farm, goes to the distillery, and then ends back at the farm. So it's one big circle of life, if you will, and that's why we chose the distillery, because it was just a value-added offshoot of the farm. So that brings me to our next topic, which is any problems and challenges we've run into along the way. And the obvious and most recent challenge is the COVID pandemic. So our tasting room was shut down for 3 months or so. So when we got that news, that was obviously a huge blow to our business, and we were pretty concerned, because coming off of 2.5 years worth of renovations and then being open just shy of a year, and to get news like that your biggest income producing part of your business is now going to be shut down for the foreseeable future, that was a huge blow, and we were definitely very concerned. So we had a few days to think about that, and then we got the news that distilleries could start producing hand sanitizer. There was obviously a national, global, actually, shortage of hand sanitizer, and there was an emergency order that came down the line that allowed distilleries to start producing hand sanitizer. So we got that news, and we immediately switched gears and said, yes, we have to do this. We can't just sit by and let our tasting room be shut down without any income, without any way to know when it could reopen. We've got all these employees that rely on us for a paycheck. And so we switched gears. We were actually in the middle of a bourbon run, and we got the email on a Wednesday night that we could start producing hand sanitizer. So Thursday, bright and early, Dad was at the distillery, and we started ordering the supplies we needed, and we switched from a bourbon run to a hand sanitizer run pretty much instantly. And by that Saturday, we were distributing our hand sanitizer. So we made the switch pretty quickly, and that is definitely a key takeaway, I'd say, to owning your own business, is you have to be adaptable, because had we not jumped at that opportunity, we would have just sat around with twiddling our thumbs for 3 months, waiting to hear when we could reopen, and it would have been a very difficult time for my family, for our business, for all our employees. During those 3 months, we didn't have to lay off a single employee. Everyone could work as much as they wanted if they were comfortable. And we were one of the very fortunate businesses that could stay open and not have to just stand idly by and watch as our business just completely floundered. So again, the ability to adapt, I'd say, would be definitely important as you decide after college, working for others, working for yourself, opening your own business. You have to be able to change with the times and change quickly. Well, thank you for watching and for having me in your class today. It's been a pleasure talking to you about our business and our journey the past few years. Working for yourself, owning your own business definitely has its rewards and its challenges. It's a lot to take into consideration after college. If you're thinking of opening your own business, you have to consider that you don't clock out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and go home and not think about work till 8 o'clock the next morning. It's constantly in the back of your mind how to improve your profitability, how to make your business better, how to raise that bottom line. Sometimes that work-life balance is difficult, and that's definitely one of the I guess you'd call it a downfall to owning your own business, is you'd never quite get away from work. But in my opinion, in my experience, the rewards outweigh that, because at the end of the day, you're working for yourself, you're working for your family, you're not just collecting a paycheck, it's something you believe in. So those are things that you just take into consideration as you leave college and enter the workforce. So again, thank you for having me. If you have any additional questions, you can email us. Find us on the web, KennayFarmsDistilling.com. There's a lot of information on there, and if you have any other questions, you can be sure to contact us. We're in downtown Rochelle, 416 Lincoln Highway. Come out and see us. If you're 21, you can come taste these spirits. If you're not, come back in a few years or tell your parents and your friends that we're there. So have a great day. Thank you.